What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of the Standing Room Only podcast, episode number 72. We are back. Sorry we missed you guys last week. As always, make sure you guys are hitting that download button. That is how we are able to see any sort of analytics. Make sure you guys are following us on our social media accounts. We are SR Only Pod. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. If you are looking for us, we are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. Leave some feedback. Make sure you're following our personal accounts. I'm iGoose with 4 O's. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. And then we have Healy as well.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Healy6.
We got a special one for you guys today. We got a lot going on with. We got baseball. We got a whole lot going on with baseball. We are going to talk about Madison Bumgarner's no hit with the Asterisks. We have the crazy Padres-Dodgers series, Shohei Ohtani. Got the Royals being the best team in all of baseball right now. We're going to transition over to the NFL draft week as well, which is it's technically tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this. And then we'll conclude the episode with the NBA and the oh-so-hot, who would have predicted, New York Knickerbockers. But yeah, let's get started with the MLB. I know, Healy, we were talking about it. We were eager. Wow, baseball's back.
Yeah, and we're getting to the end of the first month of the season. Gone by pretty quickly. The main story of the month, the most exciting thing of the month, team-based wise, has been the 7 games between the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think the season series is 4-3. So far, every single game, I made sure to tune in for at least 3 of the games this past weekend, but every single game so far in this series has been down to the wire, and there's been some great plays to help whoever won the game win. We saw this past weekend, Tatis, he was on fire. He hit 5 home runs in 3 days. It was funny because Fernando Tatis Jr. on April 22nd hit 2 grand slams in an inning. April 22nd for Tatis, he hit 2 home runs in the game at Dodger Stadium. And then they both hit a home run the next day at Dodger Stadium as well.
That's nuts how that works. I feel like we just had a stat very similar to that recently, and I can't remember what it was. Fernando Tatis, that kid is nuts. That kid is this whole series. And what's the crazy part about it is that whole division is wild. The fact that you have the Dodgers and Padres being 2 of the best as far as talent goes, and obviously it's a 12-round heavyweight battle between both, and we're going to see a lot more. And I'm expecting a lot in the playoffs as well. I did not watch too much of the first series, unfortunately. I was able to watch more highlights of the 4-game series that just passed. And all I have to say is I don't know who I could not bet. You'd have to flip a coin on who you told me to gamble on at this point, because both teams look great. Both teams gave up there were some bad plays here and there, but I mean, both teams look great at the end of the day. And it's hard to tell. I mean, who is, I mean, obviously the Dodgers to me is still the better team, but the Padres in the second series came out, and Fernando Tatis, if he swings the way he's swinging, we've seen him do it in the past, but if he continues this going forward and has this little chip on his shoulder, because every time he hit a home run, it was always something, whether if it was the Bauer strut or whatever you want to call it, just taunting, it was incredible. And that's what you love about this game. Go get your popcorn. In April, go get your popcorn. You don't see that often. I love it.
Yeah, the Padres took 3 out of 4 this past weekend. The Dodgers had a couple people on the injured list, a couple key guys. It didn't matter, though. It was such a good series. As you mentioned, the Bauer strut. People got mad. I said the Bauer strut on Twitter to be relatable because more people would know it. We know Conor McGregor does it as well, if you follow MMA. And Tatis did it. Bauer didn't care. And then also, Tatis covered his eye as he ran past and looked back at his dugout, because during spring training, Trevor Bauer was striking out guys with only one eye.
Yep.
So it was fun. He didn't care as well. He said afterwards, Bauer's always been about let people celebrate when they get strikeouts, let people celebrate when they get home runs. He doesn't care. A lot of people, he said it after in the press conference. People were like, oh my God, that's awesome to hear. The real baseball fans know he's always been about that. Glad to see him stick with his word. Saturday, was it Saturday or Sunday with the extra inning game? There might have been a couple. I think it was Sunday.
The 7-8 game? Yeah.
Yeah. Where Clayton Kershaw had a hit, Ryan Weathers.
Was that where he came in as a pinch hitter? And that was San Diego, I believe, ended up winning that game. Yeah, that was wild. And there were no other hitters available? Like, what was up with that?
These series have been so intense that both of these teams are having to put in double switches and swap guys in for certain situations. They're acting as if this is like a World Series game.
Playoff baseball, yeah. At this point, you got to play and see what they offer. And it's interesting to see because there's a team also right in the hunt in the NL West that randomly is in between both. I think the Giants are running second place right now, but I love it. The fact that they can go out and have fun, because I guarantee you once October baseball comes around, that taunting is probably going to go out the window a little bit. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's just the new age thing to do. But that's seeing Kershaw come in, and I was like watching bits and pieces of the game, and eighth inning came through, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna turn it off, and then all of a sudden, San Diego in 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, 2 runs each to come back because the Dodgers were up. I think it was like 7-1 going into the 7th inning. Yeah, and then you're like, is this game really over? Because this Padres team is as loaded as any other team out there that you want to talk about power that can just swing and bat the ball. I know Dodgers are probably arguably the best, but Padres have been doing it the last couple of years. I mean, this is a team that's out there that will rip the ball. Not getting into their pitching, which has improved over this offseason. Just that offense alone, and it goes to show, hey, you any given moment, any given Sunday, if you will. Obviously, they play more than just Sundays, but that was pretty cool to see. They came back and ended up winning that game in 11.
Luckily, the Dodgers were unable to use Jansen in the 9th. They had to go with Jimmy Nelson because Jansen was pitching the past couple days. They took advantage of that. And like Ryan Weathers, even for the Padres, had a hit late in the game due to no more position players. These teams play, I think, 18 or 19 times on the year. We've seen 7 of them. Next time they play is in June. I wish these teams could play in a World Series. Unfortunately, it will never happen due to them both being, 1, in the NL West or in the National League, and 2, they're in the same division. So will never happen, but man, I would just love to see a series between them.
This could be your classic Boston versus New York Yankees ALCS. This could be the NLCS 7-game series. Aaron Boone walk-off home runs. You never know. This could be a series for that classic. I mean, this already is a classic between these two. So I'm excited. You said, wait, they play in June?
June.
Man, the things I'd do to go watch a game over there. Anyways, got a lot of good baseball coming up. A lot to be excited about. And I'm a White Sox fan. Healy's a Cubs fan. I occasionally like watching the Atlanta Braves. That was just my other team growing up. But this is it. I think this is the series for me. In other baseball news around the world, actually not that far away, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. We got the Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout show. Shohei actually, not necessarily set a record, but I mean, he is the first since Babe Ruth or Baby Ruth, if you guys get the reference, first player in the history of baseball since Babe Ruth in 100 years to be leading the league in home runs and then starting a game in the same day. It's incredible. This is your MVP of last year. We talk about him pretty occasionally. He's still young. He's talented. He can throw 100. He can hit the ball 120 exit velocity, if not more, maybe one day. I don't know. What are your thoughts of Shohei right now? I know last year, and we'll get to Trout because Trout's having arguably one of the best years of his career, which it's unbelievable. But what are your thoughts of Shohei being your prediction of MVP last year? Obviously, it was a weird year. And now all of a sudden, he's balling out. This kid is incredible. Incredible.
I like how Joe Madden is playing him while he pitches. That's one thing I like. I didn't like Joe Madden towards the end of the Cubs reign, but him being with LA, I think it's good. I don't like pitchers hitting, but I think it's good for Shohei, especially when he hits every day, to kind of keep a rhythm of hitting as well as pitching in the same game for him. Because it'll keep him warmed up, will keep him just in the game. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Shohei this year. Last year he was okay with hitting. He could have been a little bit better. And man, he allowed 4 yesterday, so that wasn't too good. Allowed 4 in the first, but I think he pitched 4 innings afterwards, and he struck out 9 batters. He had a career high in strikeouts. He went 3 for 3. He scored every single time. And this kid is turning out great. I love it. Shohei, Mike Trout's the best player in baseball. Shohei is the most talented player in baseball right now, and there's no debate about it.
If only he could steal 40 bags, then he might be literally one of the most talented of all time, arguably. Either way, you don't see pitchers that can hit, or vice versa. At least not since the Babe Ruth era. I mean, that's just how it was. Babe Ruth, the fact that he was able to do that, a guy of his stature, obviously being arguably one of the best players of all time. And then you have this Shohei Ohtani comes in the league he's 26 now. He's been in the league a couple, 2, 3, 4 years now, maybe. It's finally coming around. The team's winning. They're off to a pretty solid start, I would say. A lot better than, well, actually, I kind of had them this year being the year where they kind of broke out. But they definitely are playing pretty damn well, and all the guys are rallying around these two, which is pretty damn incredible. Obviously, Pujols is still there, Old Man Rivers.
And he's actually playing well this season, too.
Very well.
I like seeing it. He had a home run yesterday. He has 5 on the year. I didn't even think he was going to get close. I thought he was going to get a little close to 20. He could have a 30 home run a year. He has 5. Looking at his numbers now, I thought he'd be playing a little bit better. He has a 740 OPS, which is 5% better than the average player right now. He's doing okay. He's giving it one last go, though, and I just like seeing him being able to just put the ball over the fence.
It's the machine. I don't know about you, but that's one of my favorite players growing up right there. Always on ESPN, the commercial as the machine. That's how I always remember him. Super wide stance, which isn't as wide as it once was. Used to put the ball out of the park. Was it Busch Stadium?
Yeah.
So anyways, he's there. He's helping. Sometimes you need that veteran player. Then on top of that, you have arguably in a short career so far, one of the best players we're ever going to witness play. Mike Trout is having a hell of a year. This is what we're seeing out of Mike Trout is ridiculous. He is batting a .426. He has 6 home runs already. His OPS is 1.359, slugging an 820. Is this the year he goes for bats at 340, maybe hits 45 home runs, drives in 115 runs? And you're like, wow, we didn't think he can get any better.
That would be sick. I missed out on the Bonds era. I was alive, but like I was too young to even remember it or like pay attention to it. I want to see Mike Trout have these insane seasons. I don't see him walking 200 plus times a year and having like 100 intentional walks. But man, I would love to see him have like a 500 on base percentage, like a 320 average, 600 slugging. And he's in the 1100, 1200 range, hitting 40 plus home runs. I would love to see it. His average in past couple years has been okay. Average, you shouldn't take too much into consideration nowadays. He's a career 306 hitter regardless. The guy just doesn't miss. Last year he said he needed to tune his swing. It wasn't that great. Posted a 993 OPS. This year though, he is just demolishing the baseball. We're 18 games into the season for him. We are only 1 month. It's still a long season, but man, I watched him tonight. He just roped a ball into left field. He's still getting walked. He's walked 14 times in 18 games. He's just not striking out as much. He has 20 strikeouts this year, which is around on pace compared to previous years. I think he's just getting rewarded more when he puts it in play this year.
Yeah. The comparison to Bonds is big. I remember the Bonds year. That was like my biggest years of being a baseball fan. That's when I played baseball games, everything. Bonds was something else. That dude, it was always intentional walk, home run, intentional walk. Trout, it's crazy because Trout's been in the league like 11 years and he's not even 30 yet. I think he's like 29. 10 years in the league.
He's not even a Hall of Fame eligible.
And he's over 300 home runs in his career.
This is his 10th season. Sorry for interrupting.
This is his 10th year. So he's not 30 yet. It's weird because some guys 29 and 30, that's like your prime. Your baseball, some guys are in their prime until they're 34, 35. We saw Big Papi, who was great into his late 30s, and other players who were good into their late 30s. I don't know. I'm excited right now. Baseball right now is the most excited I've been. Maybe it's because last season was just, there was like nothing to it. It was a 60-game season. I saw a lot being a Sox fan, but seeing what I'm seeing around the league, from the NL West to the AL West, the AL Central, that's another topic we're going to get on. I mean, I'm excited right now. Mike Trout is definitely leading the cause there.
Mike Trout, he passed 75 career WAR. He has a 1.8 WAR season already this year, so he could be 10 plus. He is currently ranked 75th all time in WAR. Not even 10 years through his career. He has a higher WAR. He just passed Johnny Bench. He's passed guys recently like Reggie Jackson, Frank Thomas, Jim Thome, Larry Walker. He passed Derek Jeter last year, a couple years ago. Like, these are some all-time great players, and he is just about to pass them. Ken Griffey Jr., he is within 10 of Ken Griffey Jr. He could potentially pass Griffey this year in career WAR. Most likely it will be next year. You got guys like Nolan Ryan up there. Jeff Bagwell, he could pass soon. Kurt Schilling. Pedro Martinez. Like, he's coming up to Chipper Jones in like a year or so. This guy is just so unbelievable.
So wild. I mean, some of the names you just said already, I'm just like flabbergasted. Some of those guys have had 15, 20 years in the league.
Yeah. And they're considered like some of the best. Johnny Bench is the best catcher of all time.
Yeah. Wow. How many MVPs does Trout have so far? 2?
3.
3?
Which is tied for the American League most all time. You got Bonds, who has 7, and then you got guys like Stan Musial, Albert Pujols, A-Rod, all those guys, Trout, they all have 3.
He's like this generation's Michael Jordan. In a way. I was going to say LeBron James, but I'm not trying to spark a debate.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts.
Absolutely insane. Speaking of baseball, though, you were talking about how you're more invested this year. MLB did post that this year's interest is the highest they've seen in years for baseball, which is great. Yeah, the most they've seen on MLB TV. I don't know if it's that's because you get it free with like Sprint and T-Mobile, and there's just more people watching, or more people are just getting into the sport. They're seeing the storylines, or there's this possibility: the collective bargaining agreement ends this season, and MLB has been getting flack for like all these new rules and stuff that they're implementing. They might be posting these numbers and maybe inflating them a bit because they could use it against the Players Association in the bargaining agreement this offseason. Either way, like if it is true, it's awesome to see. I'm having a lot of fun watching. I know you're having a lot of fun. We've had 2 no-hitters so far. Should be a third. Madison Bumgarner over the weekend. Man. 7 innings, no hits against the Braves. The Braves got 1 hit through 2 7-inning games over the weekend. Madison Bumgarner threw a complete game. Counts as a complete game. Allowed no hits. But it's not an official no-hitter. That sparks a debate. Should that be counted as a no-hitter? We've seen many times throughout history, guys have gone 7 or 8 innings, but it's got blown up in the 9th or blown up in the 8th. Should only throwing 7 innings count?
I mean, you have to put it in its own category. You could do like an NH7, like a no-hit 7. So they know, hey, he didn't pitch a full 9 innings, but he still did like, a complete game shutout and no hits is a no-hit. It's a no-hitter. It's a no-hitter. Now, obviously, MLB, being as historic as it is, this 200 years or whatever they played when dinosaurs were around, they like to carry on with tradition. And I get that. I mean, the Astros are still technically the World Series winners from a couple years ago. I get that. But if he throws a no-hitter in a complete game, shutout, well, obviously it's shutout, it's a no-hitter. Create a stat that says NH7, no-hit 7. Simple. But it's a no-hitter. You can't take that accolade away.
100%. I think it should be counted as a no-hitter no matter what. The team still had 7 innings. The MLB, it's not like they were like, okay, we're just going to do a 7-inning game. The MLB came to an agreement to have these 7-inning games and have them be official games with official stats. Counts as a shutout, counts as a complete game. Maybe you don't have to put it in as NH7. Like, people would probably know. No hitters, as uncommon as they are, they still aren't as rare as like a perfect game. Let's say if this was a perfect game, I think there'd be more of a debate. There's been a couple hundred no-hitters throughout history. A lot of them have been forgotten. Like, in the end of the day, this wouldn't really matter if they counted it as a no-hitter. In 5 years from now, it would be like, yeah, you remember when Madison Bumgarner threw a no-hitter? Yeah, it was back when they did 7-inning doubleheaders. Crazy. It's I think it should. Maybe they could overturn it. I don't know. It's just weird how they could just be like, no, it's not. And like for the people that
counts.
There's going to be a bunch of people who disagree. That's okay. I could somewhat see both ways. But at the end of the day, he played under the rules they had. It's not like he could have been like, all right, I have a no-hitter. Let's just play 2 innings. I want to make this official. And then the game ends.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a 6-inning game that they had a call due to thunderstorms and the leading team got the victory. It wasn't like that at all. I mean, this is literally an official game where every single stat sticks, but you don't want to reward him. And I mean, now I wonder, like, does he get, like, is there an accolade? Does he get something off the top, like maybe like a bonus for that? Like, hey, you pitch a no-hitter, you get a bonus. Like, now I'm wondering if that's the reason why and he's getting screwed. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but that is Madison Bumgarner, regardless of how people look at it. What are they going to say? He didn't throw a no-hitter? Because if you look at the stat sheet, he threw a no-hitter. So at the end of the day, it's a no-hitter. Obviously, nobody, they don't want to label it, and that's fine. Again, baseball and its traditions, but and I see the argument, like you said, on the other side. Well, he didn't pitch 9. He didn't get 27 outs. It's a full game. It's a full game. He got 21 outs.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Madison Bumgarner pitched with the Giants at some point. Giants are playing very well, along with the Kansas City Royals. I remember during our predictions, I believe I said I wanted to pick the Royals as a wild card team, but I just felt like in the end of it all, it just wouldn't work out. I think I did say, though, that they would put up a fight in a bunch of games. They had a lot of sneaky signings. I still don't necessarily think they'll make the playoffs. You need these good teams are going to get hot at some point. The Twins are kind of playing bad. That doesn't help. The White Sox are just playing okay. Doesn't help. We're 1 month into the season. Teams will start catching fire soon. The bad teams will start catching up to them, and they'll start losing. Do you think the Royals continue this all the way through?
That's tough. So it is very possible. I mean, it's all based on the schedule too. I mean, they came out and who did they just swept Detroit in a 4-game series, and they have a lot of series against Detroit. It's their division. Detroit's not very good. So I can give them that. I don't know. I don't see them that's going to literally require the White Sox to not get hot at all. The Twins, who have been hot the last couple of years, to not get hot. Cleveland, who's randomly still a pretty damn good ball club, even though Francisco Lindor is gone and some other key players are gone. I mean, there's so many things that have to go wrong for the Royals to really pursue a divisional run, maybe a wild card. Maybe they do stay hot and they make a run at the wild card. They're a good team. They've beaten the Sox. They've beaten some other big time teams, but do I see it happening? No, I don't see them staying hot. I could see they're definitely doing way better than I expected. I'm glad I didn't gamble on that.
They have veterans. They signed Carlos Santana, who's been a great one. They got Benintendi. They got Michael Taylor. They've already had Whit Merrifield, Mondesi, Salvador Perez. Their downfall, though, is going to be their pitching. It's just it's not going to be great. They do have Danny Duffy, Mike Minor. Their relief pitching's been okay. The relief pitching's been actually pretty decent, but they're starting. I don't think it'll hold up in the long run. Their guys are going to get cold at some point, and I could also see the Royals at near the trade deadline, even if they are decent, trade some of these veterans that are signed to like 1-year deals.
Get some prospects and look for the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean that's seems like that's what a lot of teams should be doing or have been doing in the past few years. Obviously, the Cubs, the Sox, Boston unloaded. It's been a lot. So yeah, definitely one of the surprising teams. Them and the Giants, as you mentioned. So again, 2 teams where the division is rock solid. First month of baseball, we don't know what's going to happen. The Sox just started to get Michael Kopech rolling. Dude just tossed 5 innings, 10 strikeouts in his last outing. I think it was Saturday. Looks incredible. I was literally delayed going to the gym because every pitch he threw, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, there's so much movement and he's hitting the catcher is not moving. I mean, there's times where the catcher's moving, but I mean, he's painting like the outside. He's hitting up in the zone. It's like everything he's moving or everything he's throwing has good movement, good velocity. So he's going to start to eventually not be on this limit to where they're going to let him throw maybe 80 pitches, get to 6 innings, maybe push towards 7. I don't see them pushing him too much this season coming back from Tommy John, but I just don't see with Carlos Rodon and Kopech and Dallas and some of these, and Lucas Giolito and all, like their rotation's pretty solid. Once these guys get going and once the bats get hot, like Yohan Moncada is one of those streaky players where, yeah, he's batting like a 240 right now, but then by July he's batting at 320 because he's just that type of player, and TA and everybody else. I just think that the Sox are just too overpowered, and then that's not including the Twins, who are another very powerful. They're a good ball club. They were great last year. They're good this year. So it's unfortunate for the Royals because I don't feel like they have enough to stay hot, but they're impressive so far. They're definitely impressive.
I did see a report where Michael Kopech is not going to be in the rotation. They aren't going to push him back into it. He will get spot starts here and there. So I could see him definitely starting more than 10 games this season. It's just you won't he has to work back. He's going to be electric though. He's going to be electric middle inning guy. Maybe even they use him as a setup guy. Who knows?
Once the playoffs come around, we've seen guys go 2-3 innings, and then you throw in a long relief. I'll take him as a long relief, pitch him 3 innings in the middle of the game, except maybe 4 innings. Because you never really know what you're going to get. But the fact that he's out there, his confidence is through the roof. His confidence is nuts. I love it. Anyways, before we get off topic, with baseball, was there, I know we talked about the Royals. We talked about, the Yankees. The Yankees are hot. Just kidding. They're not. They are literally the exact opposite. The Yankees, who I'm pretty sure was like everybody's prediction coming into the season being just unstoppable. They're 4-10 or 4-6 in their last 10. They're on a 2-game losing streak. Last in the AL East. Baltimore's ahead of them. Definitely a surprise for the worse. Well, as a Yankees fan, do you see that staying? Do you see them not finishing atop of the East, or even, I mean, wild card, I feel like is inevitable. That's just how that team is good. Yeah. But do you see them struggling like they are in the month of April?
No, I don't. They'll get it together at some point. Gleyber Torres is having another terrible season. I hope he turns it around. He's not a shortstop. And people, Yankees fans, are realizing that he is not meant for short. He's not athletic enough. Needs to be somewhere else. Unfortunate, though, they have no spot to put him. They have DJ LeMahieu at second. They have Gio Urshela at third. Like, where you can't play him at third or second. You could possibly play Gio Urshela at short, but he's not technically a shortstop. You're kind of putting a Band-Aid over a crack. It's just, I don't think that's going to fix anything this year. Aaron Judge, though, he's pretty decent. He's having a 830 OPS, having a 100-plus OPS season. Giancarlo Stanton should turn it around at some point. This team will be fine. They need to start going the other direction, though. They can't keep losing. They will be fine at the end of the day. They might make some trades here and there. They play at a smaller ballpark. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, their run support will eventually be there. Yeah, they're fine. Boston looks good though. I like Boston. I think Boston is there to stay. Boston's contending. Their offense is great. Pitching's okay from Boston. It's not, I wouldn't say terrible. It's not bad. So the AL East though, I say Baltimore loses the rest of the games, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. I don't know baseball at all.
They're definitely gonna turn it around. Or like go the other direction at some point.
Yeah, no, they will. That's just how baseball. It's a long game. It's a 162 game season. It's not the 60 game season that we saw last year. A lot of teams that are hot early are not later in the season. We've seen it happen so many times, and that's just how baseball is, and I mean, always will be. So, but anyways, that's gonna wrap up baseball. We have draft week in the NFL, in which I believe Commissioner Goodell will be able to hug and kiss the players finally.
Maybe.
I don't know what the status of that is, but regardless, it's draft week. A lot of anxiety for a lot of different fans out there, a lot of different franchises. What are the 49ers going to do? What are the Patriots going to do? What are the Bears going to do? Healy, what are the Chicago Bears going to do? That's a big question around here.
Mm-hmm.
They have an opportunity they have some players they can potentially unload. I wish they would have re-signed Kyle Fuller and used him as trade bait.
That would have been sick.
Use him with the pick, but we don't know what's going to happen. All we know is that this draft is loaded. Great receivers, unbelievable quarterback class. This might be one of the best quarterback draft classes, assuming there's no bust later on, because that does happen.
Yeah, prospect-wise, this is the best draft class that we've seen in a very long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be in Miami. I will work my way to a place that's going to have some sports, some drafts in every way you can think of. And I will be watching the draft live from Miami. Nice weather. Not trying to make anybody jealous here, Healy. But I'm excited. I'm super excited. There's been a lot of trade rumors, which there always is leading up to the NFL draft. The one that keeps falling in, you have the 49ers, who have the ability to trade Jimmy Garoppolo and whoever else they want now that they've traded up in the draft. And then you have the Patriots, who have much interest in many of these quarterbacks. So I'm curious to see what happens draft night. Maybe Green Bay trades Jordan Love. He was rumored. I don't know. Maybe they trade him to trade up. I don't know. But I think we can all agree that Trevor Lawrence is going to go one, and whatever happens after that, who knows? The mock drafts keep changing. I don't know enough about who should be packaged in a deal for a trade. All I know is that being a Packer fan, knowing what Chicago needs, they definitely need a quarterback. They can either trade up or they're going to have to settle for a lineman, which isn't settling because there's some solid offensive linemen in this draft class as well.
Zach Wilson pretty much guaranteed to go too.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers, it's funny, Kyle Shanahan was like, he was talking about it in a press conference. He said, I don't know who's going to be alive on Sunday, so I don't know who's going to be on the roster on Sunday, which is hilarious because they're referring to like Jimmy Garoppolo and stuff. And the headline was like, Kyle Shanahan doesn't know if Jimmy Garoppolo will be alive on Sunday. And it's like, he's just basically speaking like, I don't know. Just talk to me on Sunday when we make our decisions.
Yeah.
They are going to draft a quarterback. So the rankings, QB rankings, it's pretty much Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields. But the 49ers, they are making a decision between either Trey Lance or Mac Jones. I don't get how Mac Jones raised his draft stock so much. An Alabama quarterback, they generally are just okay in the NFL. We've seen a couple drafted, a couple start the past couple years, but I wasn't too excited with Mac Jones watching him this past season. And it's between him. They say that he's physical in the pocket. And then Trey Lance, I think it's more of an intelligence thing. The question, why not Justin Fields? And the reason that people are talking about is Justin Fields isn't really that coachable. They're saying he has character issues and he's not really coachable, which is leading to teams not going with him because they want someone they know they can guarantee coach. Would you take the risk on Justin Fields knowing how much talent he has, but there's a little concern on the outside game?
Yes. If and only if I'm Bill Belichick. Because I feel like he's the only one. How do we say this? Bill Belichick, to anybody who knows anything about sports, is a god, right? If I get drafted by Bill Belichick and he tells me I got drafted to make ham and cheese sandwiches and I'm going to be the best at it, I'm going to be like, yo, Bill Belichick drafted me to make ham sandwiches. I think at the end of the day, that is the one place where I can see him going. I mean, obviously his stock dropped a little bit. Bill Belichick is good with these personalities, with guys who maybe are not coachable, maybe they're not trainable. We've seen him. He's had Ocho Cinco. He's had Randy Moss. He's had guys who obviously have been in the league for a while, but those are the guys who have probably the worst attitudes because they're already
Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron Hernandez. Oh man, what a killer pick there. I mean, he's had a bunch, and obviously he had Tom Brady, but there was a lot of guys around where you were very questionable as far as attitude. But he did pretty well. The one guy that I don't know, I mean, even Cam Newton he still kind of barks a little bit, but he's not the same. I felt like he was a little bit humbled going to New England and probably having multiple and so many conversations with Bill Belichick. I think that would be a good fit. I think that would be a good fit there. I think that might be the only one where, unless Chicago doesn't have a choice but to draft a quarterback. So if Fields does end up falling that far, I say just take the risk. Just take the risk on a young kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to think these are all kids. I mean, who are sponges. Anybody with an attitude problem can develop. Anybody in life can develop. But like when they're this young, all it takes is the right coach. And I don't know if this front office and head coach can do it, but I mean, take the risk on him and just try to coach him behind. Make it a point that, hey, we grabbed Andy Dalton, who was a Pro Bowl quarterback at one point for like 2 years, and who has played with some of the best talented players. We grabbed him for $10 million because we had this weird hunch that we were going to get this quarterback in the draft. So, hey, quarterback in the draft, prove yourself not only physically and on the field, but show us that you have this moxie about you, that we can coach you. We can tell you what to do. You're not going to give us an attitude. You're not going to give us a hard time. And here's who you're going to learn behind. Somebody who's been there, done that. So, I mean, I think that wouldn't be a bad situation either.
I think the Bears, they are scheduled to take a tackle if Fields was to drop to the Bears, you take him. It's just, there's too many other teams. The Falcons could take him. The New England, I think, would definitely take him. So I just don't see a chance there. Bears are supposed to take a tackle. There, after that, though, there isn't too many great quarterbacks. They might take one in the second or third round to see if they could develop that. They signed Andy Dalton, though, as the starter so that they aren't really in a rush to get one of these quarterbacks and to throw them into the mess that they have. You need to build a good team around your quarterback. And the Bears, they don't have an O-line. They do have a couple of decent wide receivers, but they're still developing. Allen Robinson probably won't be there after like next year if they don't sign him. They'll still have like Tariq Cohen and all that. I say you just take this year, and maybe next year if Andy Dalton's garbage and the Bears are garbage, they just fall in the draft or they go up in the draft and they take a quarterback next year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was one of the things we said too was don't expect much this season as a Bears fan. Don't expect much. Let's get that. I mean, that's at the end of the day, I think that's what, I mean, Matt Nagy and who's their GM now? Is it Pace? I don't even know who their GM is. But they basically were like, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to sign him. And I think the issue, too, for a lot of Chicago fans is this false hope that they were going to get Russell Wilson. So I feel like they feel like this is their last year. They're never, ever, ever going to be able to compete again. But with the rules of building a franchise in a dynasty, work around it. I personally, I know that early on in the mock draft, they got rid of Fuller. They cut Kyle Fuller. And so automatically on the draft board was them grabbing some defensive back who was good, but like they had no protection for their quarterback. Why not build like a solid team? Why not try to make a push to be an 8-8 team or 9-7? Obviously, the more the better with an Andy Dalton. So now, okay, we established our identity. Let's get a better arm in there. Let's get a better arm. We got a good offensive lineman. We got a good offensive line. They have talent. I think they need to figure out what they're going to do this year, and I personally think they have no choice but to bring Allen Robinson back. That's just my personal opinion. A good receiver you can find. They are a dime a dozen, but he is above and beyond that. So obviously that's another conversation for like a year from like a month ago. So we'll see what ends up happening. If they, like you said, if the quarterbacks for some reason don't drop to them, which they probably won't, go offensive lineman and then go from there.
Exactly. Draft is this week. We are going to talk about all the picks next week's episode. Pretty big episode. Going to go over all our picks. This will be our second draft doing the podcast. I remember last year talking about why they drafted Jordan Love, why they went a running back round 1 for the Packers, the Bears draft. We're doing it all over next week. See where all the quarterbacks go. All these trades happening. About to be a good week. Speaking of trades, the Chiefs, they traded for an O-line. From the Ravens, a contending team. The Baltimore Ravens traded, was it Orlando Brown?
Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah, traded him to the Chiefs for a couple picks. And you might think, why? Why would you trade, especially to one of your teams that you're competing against? Brown, they were not going to re-sign. They didn't have enough money to re-sign him. He only has 1 year left. Kansas City needs some O-line. They're already a super contending team. They're in their window right now. And their picks, they're late round picks. So they don't necessarily need them. The Ravens are like, we'll take those off you. For him. So it's kind of like a win-win situation for both teams. Ravens get picks. The Chiefs are already a win-now team. They don't really need a bunch of draft help. They could get some guys to fill in here and there. It was kind of just like out of the blue, too. The Chiefs they've done a wonderful job since the Super Bowl of rebuilding that O-line, though. Even after cutting a couple of their starters, they got Kyle Long out of retirement. They've made a couple trades for guys. They signed someone in free agency. Awesome.
They made the right moves. I mean, after seeing that performance by the line, and I mean, it's hard to pin it on the line because that defense of the Bucs was nuts. It was nuts. The whole playoffs, they played well. But Mahomes just got a little bit more protection, which makes them more dangerous. Mahomes going into his 5th year? Scary. Orlando Brown Jr. Dad played in the NFL as well. I think he was with Baltimore. Passed away about 10 years ago, I believe. He was pretty damn good. This kid's pretty damn good. And like you said, your boy Kyle Long, they were able to bring him out of retirement on a 1-year deal. I'm excited. Chiefs, I don't see the Chiefs really, even without a line, I don't see them really being that bad. But with this line, they're still as scary as they were last year going into the season.
Besides that, though, we will talk about more about football next week. Basketball, the final subject of the evening, the New York Knicks. They are hot. They are still playing very well. I did not think it would continue this late into the season, and they're going to be making a push for the playoffs.
They are looking at getting a first-round home court advantage. They're a 4th seed right now, which I know isn't saying a lot in the East, but there's not that many dominating teams in the NBA this year. We're seeing Lakers have been hurt. Milwaukee has been good. They weren't what they were last year. Miami's starting to show up. Miami's starting to play pretty damn well. I like Miami. But there's no teams where you're like, doesn't matter because the West has these 4 or 5 teams that will dominate all 8 teams in the East, like we always see. The East, realistically, besides Brooklyn, Boston dropped. Boston fell. Boston is not the Boston that we thought they were. Philly's pretty good, I guess. Joel Embiid, Joel MVP. But New York's looking nice. They are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They were on a 9-game winning streak. They are filled with just a group of guys who know how to play the game of basketball. There is a player by the name of Julius Randle who was once a teammate of Kobe Bryant. I believe his first year in the league. I think it's his first year. Didn't he snap his leg in like half or he broke something?
I'm pretty sure he had a ridiculous injury.
He had a ridiculous injury where I think he planted at the base of like the rim, not the rim, but like the base.
Broken leg in NBA debut.
In his debut, right? Oh, man. I don't know why I just remembered that. Well, I remember that because Julius Randle coming into the league was like, wait, they have Julius Randle. I think D'Lo was there.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell. Like, that was a team where you were like, even though Kobe doesn't have anybody, these kids might actually work with Kobe. And then he got hurt. So the Knicks have Julius Randle, who's been balling out. I know we talk about most improved player of the year. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna win it. I think he's up there. I think he's averaged 20 points per game before. So I don't know if he will get that, but with the team with where they're at in the standings, puts him up there in question with the MIP award. With that being said, this Knicks team, they're fun to watch. Obi Toppin is starting to play a little bit more. He had a couple games where he's knocking down the 3 ball. He's a better 3-point shooter than what I ever thought he would be. Derrick Rose, Mitchell Robinson, when he plays, his defense is pretty damn good. I like RJ Barrett's there, obviously. I like Emmanuel Quickly. They got a lot of guards. It's a very interesting team. If you would have told me that the Knicks were going to be even 2 or 3 games over 500 to end the season, I would have bet you. The fact that they're a 4th seed right now, I would have slapped you. But that's just how it is. And it's crazy. I think I saw someone, I think King of the Fourth tweeted that Knicks fans are living the Chicago Bulls, are living the dream of the Chicago Bulls right now. Because we thought the Bulls making the trade for Vooch this is it. We're gonna work our way up. We're gonna be a 6th seed team, 5th seeded team in the East.
Yeah,
that's not the case. That's not the case. It's the Knicks right now, and the Knicks are serious. I don't see them. I mean, if they can easily take a 1st round series. If they're a 4th seed, they're gonna play. Well, whoever would be the 5th seed at that point, but that could end up being any of these teams. It could be Boston. I don't know. Boston will probably end up taking them in a series, but the fact that they're playing this hot, this late in the season, there's 20 games left in the year. Playoffs, I think, start in June this year. If I'm not mistaken, it's starting late, obviously, with the late start.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the Knicks. We'll just see if they keep this hot streak going. Because if they do, any team with any momentum can do anything. They would end up facing, I believe, the Atlanta Hawks in the 1st round, which that's another very good team, but be a good matchup. It would be a very good series.
Looking at Julius Randle, I knew he was with New Orleans for a season. I didn't realize he signed there as a free agent. They let him go, and he signed as a free agent for 1 year. He averaged 20 points a game, and they're just like, all right, see you later. And he signed with the Knicks.
I think that was the year they were unloading. Wasn't that the year Anthony Davis was, or they might have had, they didn't have Boogie. They didn't have Boogie that year. This is 2 years
No.
ago, right?
18-19.
Okay. So AD was still there.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it was a year. I think that was just when the Pelicans were starting to unload and they hadn't traded AD yet. So
No, AD got traded 19-20.
yeah, so their assumption was probably, and I don't know how a franchise messes up that much, but I wonder if their assumption was, yeah, we're gonna keep AD, so let Julius Randle go sign a big contract somewhere, and then we're gonna keep our money for AD. And little did they know, that's another surprising team for me. I thought this year that was a lock. I thought the Pelicans were a lock this year, but
Yeah, they are just doing okay at the moment. Actually, they're doing less than okay. 27-34, which in the East would be good. It'd be a decent record.
in the East, they would be competing for that play-in spot. So Utah is the first team to clinch a playoff spot. Number 1 seeded team at 44-17. 1 game ahead of the Suns, 2 ahead of the Clippers, 4 ahead of the Nuggets, 8 ahead of the Lakers. Lakers obviously have been hurt. As of right now, Utah is the best record in all of basketball. Every year, Utah's good. Every year, Utah is a good team. Do you think this is a sign of Utah being a great team or a sign of the West is just hurt?
I think it's the West is just hurt. I still don't see Utah as being in the finals. I just don't.
I don't see it either. I love Donovan Mitchell's game. Rudy Gobert, I love as a defensive player. Outside of those guys, Michael Conley to me just isn't the Michael Conley that he once was years ago with that awesome Memphis team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them really being a true number 1 team in the West.
Brooklyn's also clinched as well, playoff spot.
Oh, Brooklyn just clinched. Yes, they did. KD's back. Had a little thigh injury, missed a game.
Play-in starts May 18th. Playoff starts May 22nd. We're coming up to the final few games. We are 8 games out from ending the season. The playoffs is about to come out really quick because it's a 72-game season.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It is definitely a shortened season. Oh, man. So LeBron just came back. So here's my theory. Maybe I'm wrong. So first seed will always play the 8th. Second will always play the 7th, unless they change this. Third will play the 6th. Fourth will play the 5th. If I'm the Lakers, I mean, do you want to play? I guess you would want to play Denver at this point because Jamal Murray's out. He's done for the year. So continue on this little path. Bring LeBron back. Let him get in the swing of things. Anthony Davis is back already. Let these guys get refamiliarized with their squad. They go in as a 5th or even a 4th seed. They're going to play Denver. And a couple weeks ago, I would have said Denver will give them a run for their money. And they still could. Denver's still a very good team.
Michael Porter is playing amazing. I remember we were playing and you're just like, how is Michael Porter this rating?
Dude, he's one of those guys where you won't draft him for fantasy because there's so many games where he just takes the back seat, I'm realizing. But at any given moment, when he has to step up, because we saw it last year, he balls out. This dude balls out. He balled out in the playoffs in the bubble. Michael Porter is the real deal. I'm not going to lie. He's one of those players I doubted a lot. Obviously, he had the injury coming out. Where did he come out of? Michigan State? Michigan. He might be a Michigan. No, he's Michigan. I think he's Michigan.
I don't know.
He had the back injury, missed like the whole year. I'm thinking, man, they really picked him with a back injury. Whatever. First year wasn't really anything.
Missouri. He was born in
Oh,
Missouri.
Missouri. I knew it was yellow. Okay, Missouri. I knew it was yellow. So, and now all of a sudden, the bubble, he steps up. Jamal Murray goes down. He's stepping up. But I don't see that being the team that's going to take the Lakers out in a series. They can win a game or two. But a full healthy Lakers, I don't see anybody really beating the Lakers. The Phoenix Suns will give the Lakers probably the best run for their money, and the Clippers. A lot of people hate on playoff Paul George. Eventually, he'll get over this playoff hump. I think. Nobody gives him enough credit. This dude has been balling out the last, I don't know how many games. I like to think there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what ends up happening.
A sneaky team that I do not want to play at all, from what I'm seeing right here. The Golden State Warriors.
That team is weird.
They're currently the 10th team.
Mm-hmm. 10th team, and Steph Curry is on one of the greatest scoring streaks of all time. Better than, we're talking like 11 or 12 straight games where he hit, I don't know how many threes. He hit like 90 threes in like a 10-game span or something crazy. I'm probably making that number up. But the fact that he's doing it at his age of 33, I believe, might be off a year or two. The fact that he's doing that, you have Kelly Oubre, who's randomly has really good games, but also like really bad games. Andrew Wiggins defensively the last few games has been nice. James Wiseman, though, he's out. Isn't he out for the year? Or
He might be out for a bit, yeah. I think it was for like the year. It was a pretty big injury.
Yeah, he got hurt. He ended up getting hurt. There's a few injuries around the league.
With Curry, though, you mentioned he had a bunch of threes. Just so you know, he had like 5 or 6 games in this stretch where he had 10 or more threes in a game. The second most threes, or like second highest guy game total of someone to do that, is about like 5 or 6. The dude has 20 plus in his career, 10 threes in a game or more.
That's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I know that that's the way the game's going now, but like even now, we don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see guys consistently doing that.
You gotta be efficient. We see guys chucking it up, but you gotta be super efficient to do that.
If there was any other player that I would say could do that, would probably be Klay Thompson, who obviously is hurt and out for the year, but he's the only other, his teammate is the only other player that I could really see doing that.
Yeah, just with how he plays.
Oh, man, I miss Klay Thompson. Oh, my gosh. This was the year that I was so excited for Golden State because of the simple fact that Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond, we'll say throw Draymond in the mix, Draymond Green. They draft James Wiseman. I'm thinking, man, this is going to be it. Of course, Klay Thompson hurts his other knee.
Achilles?
Or he tore his Achilles. That's right. Tore his Achilles. But either way, man, I was looking forward to that. He'll be good. He's going to come back next year. Next year's the year for the Warriors. To maybe be a 6-seeded team. But they're going to compete. And that's what I like to see.
Mm-hmm. The next few weeks on the podcast are about to be awesome. We got the draft, got the end of the NBA coming up. We'll go over our predictions for that. We'll also probably do our awards at the end of the season. We didn't
NBA awards, yeah.
And we'll probably go over what we did in our predictions. We have baseball still continuing. There's a lot.
Yeah, baseball. Yeah, this is the time where there's a lot going on. Like, obviously, the most going on is like generally September into October because you have basketball season coming back, you have baseball going to the playoffs, you have football season coming back, you have hockey starting, which we don't talk about hockey. I don't know hockey too much, other than it probably hurts to take a puck off the face. But yeah, that's usually this right now for over the next few weeks, considering the NBA has obviously had that delayed in their season. Next month to 2 months it's going to be big. It's going to be big. And then obviously that's going to lead us into All-Star break for baseball. Oh man, there's a lot to look forward to. And Logan Paul is going to be fighting Floyd Mayweather in a couple of months. We are definitely going to be talking about that. Let's jump in that hype right there. We'll give our predictions for that. And then we'll go on from that point. We'll go on from that point. If you guys, anybody on the YouTube channel, if you guys want us to talk about MMA, UFC, boxing, we actually do occasionally we'll get together and we'll talk about it, but we don't ever really bring it onto the podcast. So if there's something you guys want us to talk about, leave a comment. Let us know.
I'm watching it more. I'm watching it more and more. I watched the fights this past week. I watched like all of them, and they were from start to finish. That card was nuts.
Okay. Who was your knockout of the night?
It had to have been Thug Rose. With the kick.
Oh my gosh. And then she cried after, which was like, oh man, I had to go grab tissue. I'm just kidding. I don't cry. I cry in my arm like a man. I'm just kidding. That was nuts because we saw Usman knock out Masvidal. And that was a good fight too. That first round. I was like, all right, Usman maybe controlled the fight, but like Jorge was like throwing and he was hitting Usman. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's going to get lucky. And then obviously we saw in the second round, he got cocky a little bit. Hands came down a little bit. And that was just a nice knockout. And then there was some other ones too.
Chris Weidman was breaking his leg.
Oh man. It's crazy how it came full circle because Weidman earlier in his career, and I remember I was telling my girlfriend, my favorite fighter of all time growing up in my prime days of watching UFC was Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva would come out to his DMX Ain't No Sunshine song and immediately your spine, that just like the hair stand up. You're like, oh, this guy's done. And then I remember him fighting Chris Weidman, broke his leg, snapped in half. It was jelly. And Chris Weidman, it just so happens to happen to him. And I immediately yell. And on the replay, it was even worse. It was one of the worst. Obviously, I hope for a quick recovery for him. It probably won't be so quick, but he'll make a full recovery.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to talk about more in the future though, because I know both of us are just watching them more in general. I know every time the fights are happening, you're just like, yo, let me know where you could watch, and I'm like, all right, I got you. I send you where you go, and that's it.
I'm like, take my $90 and let's watch with Healy. Anyways, make sure you guys are tuning in. Like Healy said, there's a lot to be excited about with pretty much every sport, every major sport right now. Tune in next week. We'll have our reactions to the draft, NFL draft. Make sure you guys are following us, SR Only Pod. We are on social media. We're on Instagram. We are on Twitch. I'm sorry, we're not on Twitch. We're on Twitter. That'd be cool if we were on Twitch, though. We'll keep that one for the future. Personal accounts, I am iGoose with 4 O's. We have Healy6, the Healy6, I should say.
Yeah.
We're both on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Twitch as well. Healy's on YouTube. Follow him. He's about to hit 50K. Go grab him. And then make sure you guys tune in. Hit that download button, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. See you guys next week.